A firm arm wrapped around my shoulders, lifting me upright. When I turned, I came face to face with Jackin. His cold blue eyes were locked on Damien, filled with a quiet but intense anger that made my heart race. "When did you get here?" I asked, my voice shaky from both surprise and relief. Jackin's usual stern expression softened slightly as his lips pulled into a faint smile. "Since that guy showed up with the flowers," he replied, his voice even but carrying a sharp edge. I blinked, still processing. "So you saw everything? Every bit of it?" Damien, now realizing how close Jackin and I were, stood up, his face twisted with frustration. "Who is he?" Jackin's grip on me tightened, his arm pulling me closer. "Her fiancé," he said with a touch of mockery, his words laced with a challenge. "Lies." Damien's voice cracked with disbelief. "Tulia, this isn't true, right? You're just trying to make me jealous, aren't you?" Before I could reply, my brother's voice cut through the tension. "What a joke." He stepped forward, baseball bat resting casually on his shoulder, causing Damien to instinctively take a step back. My eyes were wide, in shock. I wanted to rush before him to stop him from doing anything illegal. After all, despite Kurt's jolly and funny demeanor, he wasn't the type to play around with. But Jackin, unfazed, calmly kept me at his side. "Relax," he said with a reassuring chuckle. "I'm here. He won't do anything too reckless." Then he pulled out his phone and made a quick call on some healers over the Silver Fangs villa. I froze, speechless. Damien's eyes started between my brother and me. "Tulia, we haven't broken up. You can't just move on. Our relationship isn't over. You can't marry someone else." Without a word, Kurt swung the bat, hitting Damien hard on the leg. The sharp crack of impact was followed by a scream as Damien collapsed to the ground. "You're lucky I only aimed for your leg," Kurt sneered. I can feel the anger coming from his seething teeth. "You lied to my sister and now you think you can show up and hurt her. Don't ever call me your friend again." "Kurt, stop it," I said, stepping forward with a firm voice. My brother hesitated, the bat hovering in mid-air. Damien, still writhing in pain, managed to let out a weak laugh. "See, you still care about me, Tulia. You can't just forget me, can you?" I shrugged off Jackin's grip and walked up to Damien, crouching in front of him. Without a second thought, I slapped him hard across the face. "That's for everything you put me through," I said, my voice cold and final. "Now we're even." I stood and looked down at him, my words clear and resolute. "For the record, Damien, there was never anything official between us. Nobody even knew that we were mates, and those who knew never recognized it. You never cared enough for me to even break up with. I'm done with you." Grabbing Kurt's arm, I started to pull him away. He resisted, still holding the bat. "You sure you want to get the council over this guy? That will surely punish you," I hissed, planting my foot firmly. Grinding his teeth, Kurt dropped the bat, but not before leaning over Damien one last time to throw a few solid punches to his face. Satisfied, he stepped back. Jackin motioned for the healers to come in and 4 people arrived with a stretcher to carry Damien away. As they began to load him up, Damien, his voice strained, shouted, "I was with her for 7 years. Don't you find it sick to marry her?" I froze, but Jackin didn't. Without hesitation, he walked up to Damien, placed his foot on his injured leg and pushed down hard, causing Damien to cry out in pain. "You're a disgrace," Jackin said coldly. "Don't worry. You'll make sure she lives alive." So full of joy, I'll make you regret ever letting her go. He then looked at the healers. "Take him away." Once Damien was gone, Jackin turned to me, his face softening. He gently took my hand in his. "Forget going back inside," he said, his smile a little warmer. "How about I take you around the meadow? You've been gone for so long. Surely you'll want to know what you miss around." Why, I couldn't help but ask, caught off guard by his sudden words. Jackin smirked, clearly amused by my bewildered expression. "My mom always says that when your mate's feeling low, you should take them out to relax. I figured you're not up for anything too wild, so I thought a quiet stroll would do." Before I could respond, Kurt jumped in with his usual antics. "I'm feeling down too. Take me along." Jackin sighed, then easily kicked him aside like it was second nature, whisking me away without a second glance. He guided me into his car, ignoring Kurt's dramatic protest as he sped off, leaving my brother in the dust. I chuckled at the absurdity and Jackin glanced my way with a sly wink. "See, smiling suits you better," he said casually. I quickly lowered my head, trying to hide both the grin on my face and the blush creeping up my cheeks. A comfortable silence settled between us as he drove aimlessly through the town. I gazed out the window, watching the familiar streets pass by. It was the same scenery I had seen last night, now bathed in the warm glow of the morning sun. The streets were alive with people going about their day. "Don't overthink it," Jackin said, suddenly, his voice breaking the silence. "What?" I blinked, startled. His eyes remained on the road as he slowed the car near a pedestrian crossing. "The past is done. I don't want you reopening old wounds for anyone's sake, not even mine. Just trust me. None of it matters anymore." It took me a moment to grasp what he meant. He smirked again, the tension lifting as he added in a playful tone, "But I wouldn't mind if you kept calling me Noble. I like that. Say it more." I couldn't couldn't hold back my laughter at his teasing and he glanced at me with a look of pure satisfaction. True to his word, Jacking spent the morning showing me around town, pointing out new shops and taking me to places I hadn't visited in years. He bought me a few things, nothing in pairs, I noticed, probably to avoid giving the wrong impression. After a while he took me to a cozy restaurant where he insisted on ordering the best dishes for me. Over the meal he chatted non-stop, a stark contrast to the intimidating figure I'd met that fateful night. He reminded me a little of Curse, cheerful and light-hearted when he wasn't busy being serious or scary. By the time we returned home the car was packed. Not just the trunk but the entire back seat was filled with our purchases. Curse stood outside cradling our Persian cat with a theatrical pout. He looked at us with mock envy, clearly overacting for attention. Jackin barely acknowledged him walking past without a care. I burst into laughter as Curse huffed his sulking, quickly turning into playful banter with Jackin. Any lingering irritation from Damien's earlier visit melted away in the warmth of their antics. The following weeks passed peacefully. My parents checked in often. Curse kept pestering me in his usual way and Jackin stopped by occasionally. While he claimed it was to get to know me better, I knew he enjoyed riling up my brother more than anything else. Regardless, his presence made everything easier to bear. 3 months after the breakup I found my rhythm again. I landed a position designing women's clothing for a prestigious tailoring company that specialized in gowns. With my experience and portfolio they placed me in a senior role almost immediately. One evening after finishing my shift I waited for Jackin to pick me up for dinner. A receptionist approached, saying someone was waiting for me in the lobby. Assuming it was Curse, who often dropped by unannounced, I headed out casually. But it wasn't Curse. Standing there were Kaya and Damien. Damien's eyes lit up when he saw me and he limped forward in crutches trying to grab my hand. I instinctively stepped back, keeping my guard up. His expression turned pleading but he pressed on. I brought Kaya to apologize, he said, shoving her forward. Kaya's face contorted into what she likely thought was a remorseful look, but it came across as an exaggerated act. She even mustered up some fake tears. I'm so sorry, Talia. It was all my fault. I promise I'll stay away from Damien from now on. I crossed my arms unimpressed. It felt like I was watching a poorly written play. Talia, Damien said, stepping closer. She's apologized. Isn't that enough? Come back home with me, please. I scoffed, shaking my head. Do you honestly think her half-hearted apology would change anything? Damien, we're done. We broke up. His jaw clenched, his desperation turning into frustration. Then what do you want from me? Just tell me what to do. You don't need to do anything, I replied firmly, stepping aside to leave. But he moved to block my path. Damien, stop, I said, my voice rising. We're not together anymore. Let it go, Talia. Before I could respond, a strong arm pulled me into a protective embrace. I looked up to see Jackin, his icy gaze as he glared at Damien and Kaya. The silence between us grew heavier, the tension thick in the air. Then with a sudden movement, Jackin pulled a card from his pocket and extended it toward Damien. Damien eyed it warily but didn't take it. What is this? He asked, suspicion lacing his tone. Take it, Jackin said coolly. If it's money, Damien started, but Jackin interrupted with a roll of his eyes. It's not money. When Damien refused to take it, Jackin handed it to Kaya instead. Caught off guard by the commanding presence of Alpha, she instinctively accepted it. She glanced at the card, her eyes widened as she read its contents. This is. Kaya trailed off, looking between me and Jackin. Our bonding ceremony, Jackin said with a smirk, his gaze fixed on Damien, who had gone pale at the announcement. I figured you should know what's happening. Before either of them could respond, Jackin took my hand and led me away, leaving them stunned in our wake. On the day of our ceremony, Damien and Kaya arrived at the ceremony. Damien still wore a cast on his leg and leaned heavily on Kaya for support. Several warrior wolves stood discreetly nearby, ready to step in if they caused trouble. I gave Jackin a questioning look, unsure why Hate allowed them to come. He shrugged nonchalantly. Keeping them where I can see them is the best way to avoid problems. Curse snorted from nearby. That's just your excuse for being a master manipulator. As we exchanged vows and promises to the moon goddess, a sudden commotion erupted. Damien shoved Kaya aside, her forehead striking the edge of a nearby table and drawing blood. He didn't even glance at her as she crumpled to the floor. The scene jolted a painful memory, Kaya's welcome back party where Damien had spilled soup on me and abandoned me to chase after her. Damien tried to rise, shouting, but the warrior wolves restrained him, covering his mouth. After the ceremony, I approached them. Kaya sat slumped against a chair, blood staining her hairline, while Damien glared at her with unmasked disdain. I looked at Kaya, my voice was calm. Now that you've seen me properly, do you think we look alike? Kaya stared at me, her eyes hollow. After a long pause, she let out a bitter laugh through her tears. Does it even matter? He never truly loved either of us. Damien snapped, his voice sharp with frustration. Don't say that. I loved you once, but now it's Talia I love. You've always come between us. If you hadn't returned, everything would have been fine. I shook my head. Damien, stop lying to yourself. Besides, I've been bonded with someone now. His face fell, his words caught in his throat. He sank back to the ground, defeated and silent. Jackin stepped forward and took My hand his touch warm and grounding. Without a word we walked away together. As we strolled past the cheering crowd, Jackin leaned close and whispered mischievously, "Come on, the pack is waiting for the reception to begin. I heard your brother complaining he's hungry already." I laughed and playfully nudged his arm. He grinned, pulling my hand to his lips for a quick kiss. As for Damien, news of his downfall spread quickly. In his bitterness he blamed Kaya for everything, tormenting her until she retaliated. In a moment of desperation she pushed Damien and herself to a cliff where she died. Damien survived the fall, but half of his body is no longer working. Damien's family, ostracized by the other packs for their cruelty and drama, saw their alliances crumble. They were cast out, left to survive on their own. When I later asked Jackin why he hadn't let Damien face harsher consequences, he made a quick call to confirm Damien's survival. "I made a promise," he said simply. I told him, "He'd live to see you happy for the rest of your life. That doesn't happen if he dies now." I stared at him speechless while Kurt's earlier words echoed in my mind. This man really was devious. But as Jackin smiled at me, his eyes warm and steady, I knew he was the one who would give me the peace and happiness I deserved.